Hello, everybody. Welcome to our KU Pulse podcast. My name is Dr. Mohammed Sakhnini. I'm a senior lecturer in the General Education Unit here at Khalifa University. And today we are talking about a topic which has been important in the field of STEM research, STEM education, which is the importance of effective communication in the field. We've got today Dr. Glenda El Gamal as our brilliant guest. She's a senior lecturer in the General Education Unit here at Khalifa University with 25 years of experience, specializing in intercultural communication, academic writing, and critical thinking skills. Glenda is the General Secretary of an eminent organization in the field of effective communication. It's called International Association of Applied Linguistics. Today, we are happy to have her to talk about the importance of effective communication and technical writing in STEM fields. Welcome, Glenda. Nice to see you today.
Lovely to be here and a pleasure to be with a colleague who shares this passion about technical writing.
So before we get started, I'd like to tell everybody that we've recently launched our latest edition of KUST Review. The title of that one is called Growing Greener. And you're welcome to download a digital copy of that one from kustreview.com. So in the last few years, many researchers and academics in the field of STEM writing and communication have been debating the idea of the importance of effective writing in the field of STEM education. And all of them agreed that effective writing is basically key for success in STEM fields. So Dr. Glenda, I'd like to start really by asking you this question. So is poor communication and effective sort of style of writing holding STEM fields back?
Is it holding it back? Well, I'd like to approach it from the angle of strong communication is what pushes STEM forward. So let's frame it in a positive light. So even if you have the most groundbreaking research, discovery is not everything. It's the impact of that discovery. So whether it's publication, whether it's policy making, whether it's applying for funds, you need to have strong communication skills in order to get that message across to the public and to the scientific community.
Okay, so why do you think then writing, as I see it, actually, when I read a lot of these research articles about effective writings and effective communication, many of these researchers are saying that, in STEM fields and a lot of these sort of new publications in STEM fields, writing is effectively overlooked as a critical skill in this sort of field. So what are the consequences then of poor communication in research, particularly in STEM fields, from your sort of perspective?
Well, plenty of consequences. And I think before we can answer that, we need to say, why is it overlooked in the first place? And I think it's because a lot of scientists assume that strong research findings equal instant communication. But that's not always so. There needs to be a method and a process and a structure to it. You need to have very clear reports so that policymakers can read those reports and make regulations. For grants, you need to have a very well-identified problem statement. And if we're talking about science communication, like to the general public, that needs to be very, very clearly and simply presented, not with lots of jargon, so that the public can understand it. And if they understand it, then that gives trust. And if you have trust, then that brings visibility and then ultimately opens the door to more funding. We saw that particularly quite recently with COVID. Very strong communication in science led to much better health outcomes.
Okay, so then if we sort of move in to talk about sort of researchers who actually are preparing these reports and these publications for the public spheres, for policymakers, for stakeholders as well. From your sort of perspective, what are the common challenges that a lot of these researchers are facing in the sort of during the process of writing their papers or their reports before they sort of popularize them and try to sort of get them out there into the public sphere?
Well, a lot of people, a lot of scientists forget that they need to be persuasive. If you are going to attract funding, if you're going to appeal to wider stakeholders, your message needs to be very clear. In effect, you're kind of telling a story. So to do that, you need to write with clarity. You need to write without excessive use of jargon. So you need to know your audience. I mean, a very high-level scientific journal, perhaps you can have some more scientific terms. But if it's going to perhaps the general public, or if it's going to other stakeholders who might not be so versed in the field, you need to have very clear, articulated writing. We always say that if a well-educated layperson, someone who's not a specialist, can't understand what your abstract is, then it's time to go back and re-edit to make it simpler, to make that message more direct. So A, avoid excessive jargon. B, cohesion, clarity. Make sure there's a flow so it's persuasive. C, don't expect it to be a one-stop shop. Don't just write it, leave it, and think, oh, thank goodness that's done. It's a process. Just like scientific research is iterative, perhaps, this is also iterative. You need to go back, you need to be patient, you need to go back and review it, proofread it, etc.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of sort of, again, debate among researchers about the importance of just do not give up on your first draft.
Absolutely.
You need to sort of keep refining it and polishing it. And even when we get to the final draft, you'd never be absolutely happy about it. So it's a process. It's absolutely it's a process. And also we need at some point, if I can actually sort of chip in here, because I teach academic writing as well. It seems to me we need as well to make it clear that we're not writing for ourselves as researchers. We're also writing for someone else to read. So the idea of keeping our audience in mind is absolutely important. And that's what sometimes it seems to be missing in these sort of a lot of the publications that we read these days. It seems to be like writers, a lot of them write for themselves rather than for audiences to sort of grasp and read and comprehend and understand.
I totally agree.
Right. So if we can move on a little bit to talk a little bit about the kind of course that you've taught at Khalifa University. Is it for PhD student course?
Yes.
It's called Research, Writing and Publication course for early career researchers and PhD students. So can I really ask you about, is there any overview of this course that you can provide some sort of an introduction for us to this course, and
Sure.
what are the purposes of this course, and if there is any successful stories coming out to this course in terms of students actually doing this course and then going on to sort of become researchers and publishers in their own right. So what's your introduction for us to this course? What would you like to tell us about it?
Well, this course was written in response to demand, really. CTL, which is our Centre for Teaching and Learning, they provide grants yearly, and I won a grant to develop this course because there is a strong need for our PhD students, not just to write their thesis, but to publish journal articles. And yes, they come here with fairly strong verbal skills because it's well known that typically for IELTS scores, the verbal score is often higher than the written score. They need to get around a 6 to come in, but I think we both know, as people who've been around academic writing for a long time, that an IELTS score does not really prepare you, an IELTS score of 6 rather, does not really prepare you for extended writing or the type of critical thinking or the type of referencing or the kind of synthesis that thesis writing and journal article writing needs. Hence this sort of course. So we take you through all the parts of either a journal article or the thesis, the abstract, the literature review, the methodology, the discussion, how to write cogently, how to write concisely, what you need to put in, how you need to synthesize. And then we look at the hidden part of it, the things that often no one tells you. I know when I was an early career researcher, no one told me about how to apply for a grant. So we look at that. We look at the nuts and bolts of that, some tips and tricks. And very importantly, how to respond to peer review, how to respond to the comments that you get, because that's also quite something that students really don't know unless they're taught explicitly what to expect. They get their egos involved, or they get offended, or they get overwhelmed, or else they get quite defensive or want to give up when perhaps for the first time it's, they ask for quite strong revisions. So we cover all of this in the class. And have we had success stories? Well, it's early days, but I have had one student, I can't give his full name, but Omar, who did have a manuscript accepted at a very reputable Q1 journal. So we see that as a wonderful success.
Oh, brilliant. He wrote it himself.
Yes,
absolutely. Sort of with peers and stuff like that. It's just sole sort of author. He's brilliant, fantastic stuff. Now, if I wanted to sort of really generalize the topic here a little bit and talk about the role of communication in STEM in general. So what advice would you give researchers looking to improve their sort of writing and communication skills in the world of STEM fields from your sort of experience and expertise? Yeah.
Well, the first thing is to acknowledge that we're always learning. We're always learning. We can improve our writing and to take active steps to do that. So you can do that in explicit ways and implicit ways as well. So first of all, there's lots of courses, including this one at Khalifa University. Then if there's things like Coursera, there's all sorts of online aids that can help you. Secondly, read. Reading. You teach academic reading as well. I'm sure you're aware that that whole idea that the research tells us that it's about comprehensible input. The more you read, the better you're going to write, because you're going to be subconsciously absorbing all of those very good structures. So look for the best articles in your particular field. Go to Nature, go to Elsevier, talk to your supervisor, get them to recommend. Ask people, and every day you should be reading, even if it's just a little bit. Reading, because then you will absorb and improve without even trying, actually, because your subconscious, it's comprehensible input, it's part of second language acquisition or third language acquisition, that it helps you. So reading is very, very important. The other thing is, I think you mentioned before, Mohammed, is to be aware that you're going to have to revise, right? It's not going to be one and done. You write it, you look at it, you edit it, you revise it, you get a trusted colleague, friend to look at it with you. Then you go back and you come back and you improve it. It can always be improved. And my third thing is, don't rely too much on AI.
That's going to be a question I'm going to ask you later.
Elephant in the room, yes. Yeah. And I guess we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But don't rely explicitly on that. You are the author.
Yeah.
AI is your tool, and use it as such.
Yeah, and then fantastic that you mentioned this idea of reading, that we need to sort of have input before we sort of go into the output
research
stage.
tells us that.
Then it seems to me it's important at some point as well for us as researchers to go outside the box and try to read material from outside specialism.
Absolutely.
So what's your take on that? In other words, what about someone who's specialised in nuclear science, for example? Do you sort of recommend that this person needs to read, let's say, novels and literature, and that could actually improve their own writing skills? Or no, we need to get bogged down into our fields and stick to our own nuclear science sort of
Mohammed, I'm so
field.
glad you brought this up.
So what's your take on this idea of going outside your own specialism in terms of reading?
It's not just our view, because we are sharing this view. The research, the literature strongly tells us this. The second language acquisition research, in particular Krashen, who I guess we would call the guru of second language acquisition, he says you need to read for pleasure. Read everything. If you're interested in gaming, read about gaming, good articles about gaming. If you're interested in fiction, read fiction, no matter what genre. As long as it's been published and edited, it's good writing. Read that, because you will learn more from what you're interested in than from something you're being forced to read. Of course, read in your discipline, and also since interdisciplinary research is even more important than ever, now also read in other disciplines, but also don't forget to read for pleasure, because better readers make better writers.
Yeah, and then when I sort of recall reading a bit about early Islamic science, for example, I get to realise that a lot of these great scientists back in history were also philosophers and, poets and things like that. So, that they were interested in the world outside their own only scientific specialism. So reading is such an important thing for them.
I guess that's the roots of the Renaissance man, isn't it? But even earlier.
Absolutely, in European traditions as well. Now, let's go to the elephant of the room, since you mentioned it earlier,
the elephant in the room.
Which is AI, artificial intelligence. So where do you sort of position yourself in this sort of debate between, let's say, the ethicists, those who actually believe that we need to steer away from AI, it really corrupts our own traditions and our own professions and stuff like that, or those who think, oh, no, we need to go ahead and embrace it and try to use it for the common good. So where do you sit on this sort of polarities in the debate around AI in the world of STEM research as well?
You said it straight there. We can't ignore it. It's here. We need to embrace it. Not only do we need to embrace it, we need to make parameters for it. So researchers, our students, scientists need to see AI as a tool to leverage, to get the best out of it. It's kind of like when calculators came along. There were people who were saying, oh, no, that's the end of math. We know it, the students are cheating.
Yeah.
All this time later, math didn't die. People are still doing differential equations. People are still doing algebra. They need to know the workings of it. So AI is the same. It will help you improve, refine your writing. But at the end of the day, you still need to have that critical thinking. You still need to have that ability to synthesize. You still need to be the author. You are the author of that scientific work. It can't be that AI does it for you. And by the way, the journals are watching now. Journals like Nature, the Elsevier publications, Taylor and Francis, they all ask you for transparency. You need to declare, have you used AI? So the world is catching up with this kind of thing. We can't hide and say, oh, it's a game of hiding my use of AI. No, it is transparency in the ethical use of AI. So our job now as educators would be to help students leverage all the best of AI with transparency and ethical use.
Right. And also, it's a developing field, isn't it?
Completely.
Which means that what we know about it today perhaps is going to be something different tomorrow. And therefore, perhaps we need to sort of try to update ourselves every step of the way, as they say, when it comes to the use and perhaps abuse of AI. Again, if we stick to this topic a little bit more and try to speak about perhaps the value of AI in terms of sort of research and publications. Is there any sort of perhaps sources, resources, perhaps pieces of advice that you can give us researchers to sort of use AI ethically, perhaps, in order not to have these sort of doubts later on and say whether I've done the right thing or perhaps the wrong thing. So what's your sort of advice for us who are interested to learn more about AI, but really fearful of the idea of sort of dipping our toes into it?
Well, the key word is transparency. Act with transparency. If you use AI, you need to acknowledge it, and that would kind of legally cover you. Always then look at the fine print when you're submitting something to a journal. How much AI assistance do they allow? For example, I know that Elsevier allows a little bit more than Nature, so you need to do that. The other thing is, in your actual preparation, you can use AI to help you organize your ideas, not to create them, because you are the scientist and the creator and the discoverer, but to help you refine them, to help you reorganize them. Be very careful of using AI for referencing. In the field, they call it hallucinations, don't they? They can often, AI is a very confident liar and it can make up references. So don't just blindly ask it to help you for your literature review. Always double check those sources. It can help you, by the way, in your literature review. It can help you make summaries once you've sourced the article and you've checked its credentials to see if it has credibility. Then you can ask it to help you summarize, and that can help you get through your work a little bit more quickly and to help you organize your work. So it also can help you proofread. It can help you a little bit with style, particularly if you're a second language person and you might not have confidence in the flow and the coherence. You can ask it. But then, of course, you have to remember there needs to be a balance. How much is you? How much is AI? And at all times, the preference really is for you to be independently developing yourself as a writer by reading, by working constantly, by writing a little bit each day. It's a little bit like going to the gym. It's like a muscle. You can't just go in spurts and expect something to happen. If you're doing a little bit each day, a little bit of reading each day, a little bit of writing each day, eventually that will have results. And then the metaphor, the tashbih in Arabic, I suppose we'd say, would be do a little bit each day.
Okay, so now do you have a final advice for STEM researchers and those who are interested in developing their own skills in effective communication and effective writing in the world of STEM research and publications and fields? So what's your message to these people who want to improve?
My final message would be to invest in yourself and to invest in communications, because the stronger the communication is, the stronger the message is, and the stronger the research message will get out to the funders, the policymakers, and to the general public. So investing in communication is really an investment in STEM.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Glenda. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for joining us in this episode.
Thank you very much.